getting to do this it's always quite refreshing whenever we get new guests in every year. But I always get slight goosebumps whenever we've got a new Beast Wars actor in, because, you know, regardless of when you grew up or something like that, we can all pretty much admit Beast Wars was fantastic. So was Beast Machines. And what was really great about that show was basically that the bad guys weren't all just blokes, and they weren't all just good guys either. In fact, what we got was some really interesting and really creative female characters for the first time in a Transformers animated cartoon. And nobody epitomizes that more than this lady. Ladies and gentlemen, Venus Terzo! I hope so.
Woo! Right back at ya. Hi, everybody. Hello. Is everyone having fun?
Yeah!
I'm having the time of my life. I'd like to give a shout out to Tori O'Regan. It was because of her that I'm here today. I met her last year at the convention in Louisville, Kentucky, and she said to me, "Would you be interested in coming to the UK?" And I thought, which is a really bad version of that, sorry. And I thought, yeah. And so anyways, we hooked up through email, and her and Billy brought me out here, so I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me to TF Nation. I'm thrilled to be here, and thrilled to be a part of this fantastic Transformers weekend.
It's one of those things where whenever we start suggesting ideas, knocking names around and things, it's like, we heard it, Tori was speaking to Venus, it's like, what? It's like, yes, now, make it happen. Not that, obviously, I'm slightly obsessive, but you know, it's fine. Do you want to stand or do you want to sit?
Make it casual.
Yeah, we can. So, generally what we do with these panels is we start with me asking you sort of general questions, and then we'll open it up to our audience. Have we got some questions in the audience? Yeah, we're going to get some microphones and some runners and things like that. So we always like to start with the easiest question ever devised. Who is Venus Terzo? Ooh.
Venus Terzo is a person who grew up in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, with dreams of becoming an actress. So I decided to go on my journey and go to theater school after high school, graduated, and moved to Vancouver, where all my dreams came true. And why I'm saying this is because I remember before I went to theater school, I wasn't of age yet, so my dad had to sign the paper, and he didn't want to sign it because he thought, you know, who's going to hire a girl from Park X to work in these movies and TV shows and stuff like that? And I said, Dad, I really want to do this. Like, you know, this is my dream. So he reluctantly signed it, but he knew deep down that, you know, he had trusted me and he knew that I could do it. So anyways, off I went to Vancouver, and within the first month that I was there, my first audition was for a TV series called Wise Guy, and I auditioned for it and booked it, and that was a lot of fun. But the casting director who cast me called my agent and said, now, Venus was great, but was she an ex-dancer or something? And because of my name, right? Because who would name their child Venus? And I'm like, no. I'm just a normal person. So anyway, and it just snowballed from there. And I met another really good friend, John Teddy, who introduced me to his roommate at the time. And his roommate is the one that was involved in voice work. Because I had no idea when I first started out as an actor, because I studied theater and did film and television, but hadn't done voice work. Didn't even know what that was, right? So he got me a meeting with her, and I sat down, and she let me listen to some voice tapes of other actors that had a lot of experience. I thought, oh, this is cool. It's not only cool, it's fun, right? And the best part about voice work is it doesn't matter what you look like, it's all about your voice and expressing yourself and having fun doing it. Whereas if you're doing stuff in front of the camera, it's all about what you look like. Do you fit in with the cast? Are you the right, size, height, weight, all that stuff. So that's what's cool about voice work, that doesn't come into play. It's just about your voice and about going out there and having fun. And that's how I started in voice work.
And so, you said obviously from a very young age, you were like, this is the profession that I want. What was the catalyst for that? Was there one thing you saw or one thing you found movies growing up?
Yeah, I grew up ages ago, but back in the day, I remember we had a TV in the kitchen and we didn't even have a remote. So we had to, like my brother and I would put a blanket down and we'd lie in front of it and we'd have to get up and, change the channel. But we watched, sitcoms mostly, and we couldn't wait for Saturday morning cartoons. Because back in the day, we didn't have, cartoons on every day like we do now. We didn't have all these multi-channels and satellite and stuff. So we just had basic cable, and we would sit in front of the TV, just, waking up as early as possible to watch our favorite shows. And I remember watching them, and then in between the shows would be the commercials, and there'd be these kids, having fun playing toys or doing, and I'm like, Mom, I want to be on that, I want to be on the TV like that. And she's like, yeah, eat your breakfast, maybe. But I also found myself getting involved in school, like school plays, school fashion shows and talent shows. I always liked doing something where I could entertain people and have fun doing it myself. I'm not very athletic. That was never my thing. I never got into sports. I just really enjoyed mostly doing theater and reciting poetry and stuff like that. So, yeah.
And I suppose, obviously, growing up, you were involved in a lot of school plays and things like that. And so, do you want to talk about the process once your dad finally signed off on it and sent you on your way? How you found the auditioning process and the casting processes and things like that?
Yeah. So, again, back in the day, it was theater school. There was no real place that you could take a class for film or TV, not while you were in theater school. It was all strictly, live shows. And I had no experience working in front of the camera. And there's a lot of little nuances that you need to know before you do that. So when I moved to Vancouver, my agent suggested that I take a class to kind of, figure out how it's done. And theater and for voice work too, you can be very loud and animated and it works. But when you're in front of the camera, even a minute eye flicker could mean something, right? So it was important to learn how to scale it back and not to project as much and to just talk naturally, and build a character that way. But when I did that, going to auditions was, I was nervous, but I was more excited than nervous because I had dreamed about this all my life and I really, really wanted to do it. And I wanted not only to prove it to myself, but to prove it to my parents because not only were they gracious enough, my dad was to sign the form for me to go to theater school, but they supported me through the first few years because it was really tough. I mean, I had quite a few jobs just trying to make ends meet, and moving to Vancouver was, in Canada at the time, one of the most expensive cities to live in, right? So I was game. I was like, I'll do anything I need to do, and I worked, nightclubs at, in the evening. I worked helping my agent out, photocopying pages of scripts and stuff during the day, and in between I'd go to auditions and had my fingers crossed. But the first job that I got was Wise Guy. It was my first audition, and I booked it. And then I wasn't sure if I was going to stay in Vancouver or if I was going to ever be an actress or, and I asked the man upstairs to give me a sign. And a couple months later, I got to audition for a film called Laura Lansing Slept Here, which starred Katharine Hepburn. So that for me was like, I get goosebumps even thinking about it. I'm like, oh my God, what an opportunity to be able to work with one of the greatest actresses of all time. It's like, that would be like that would be a sign, and that would be, yes, I'm in the right place, and I'm doing the right thing, and this is my destiny and the direction I'm supposed to go in. So anyways, lo and behold, I booked it, and I was like, yes! I was so excited. It was a small part, but it was just like, oh my god, this is amazing. And the cool thing about that was, after we filmed, and usually we have wrap parties afterwards to celebrate the finishing of the film. And most celebrities or stars don't show up to these things, but Katharine Hepburn did. And not only did she show up, but she gave us each an autographed version of her book, The African Queen, which was really cool. So that kind of started my journey, and I thought, you know what? Yeah, this is good. I mean, it's not super fun and exciting every single day. It's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of dedication. You audition, you get rejected more often than you get the parts, but it's worth it. The journey is worth it, and it's so exciting and so, I don't know, you learn a lot about yourself, you learn a lot about people, and you learn a lot about your craft, and I think auditioning it's like going to a job interview, where you're presenting yourself and you're selling yourself, but also getting a chance to work on the material, and that's kind of honing our craft, which is always a lot of fun.
I suppose, going into your first audition and getting it, please tell me there was a I told you so dad phone call not too long afterwards.
So, both my parents were from Greece, and I called my dad, I called home, and I'm like, Mom, guess what? I got the part! Oh my god, I got the part! And my dad gets on the phone, and he would say it, and he would say it in Greek. He'd say, Bravo, which means, bravo, my sweet girl. I said, see, I told you. He goes, I knew you could do it.
Humility is the best way to go. So, you were doing on-camera work, and as you mentioned before, you had the opportunity to start doing voice work. Was that a natural fit for you? Did you find voice work easy? Certainly in terms of your vocal range and things like that. And did you find the transitions?
I wouldn't say easy. It was absolutely something I had no clue about. Like, we'd never taken any courses in it. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. All I knew is that something in me was just like I had the drive, and it was like I was willing to do anything. So if you have a passion about something and you set goals for yourself, it's like this is an opportunity for me to learn something new and to try to be the best that I can be. Voice work itself is, I wouldn't say easy. It's very competitive. Back in the day when I started, there wasn't as much competition because it was one of the first cartoon series I worked on was, I played Princess Lana in Captain N. And for most of the actors that I worked with, it was the first time that they'd done that kind of voice work, right? So we were all there kind of green and looking to the director for guidance because we had no idea what we were doing. We knew we had to voice these characters and perform, but you can't really move in a studio. You can't make noise. You can't shuffle around, It's even positioning your face. You have to do it so that you don't pop on the mic. These are all these little technical things that we had no way of knowing. We found out while on the job. So that was kind of neat. And then realized that, wow, not only is this a fun, creative way to express yourself as an actor, but the pay was really good. So for what we did, because usually you work 4 hours in the studio and you get your day rate, whereas if you're doing film and TV, it could be 8 hours, right? So, and like I said, the best part about voice work is that it doesn't matter what you look like. It's all about your voice. And I'm not the best voice actress out there, but when I do get to voice a character, I know I have fun, I give it my all, and I do my best, right? There's a lot of really good actresses in Vancouver who do a lot of voice work, who can also sing. I can't, so that limits me. But even knowing that, I still will audition and still will go out for it and do my best. And absolutely try to get the job.
And I suppose that brings us right along to a little show people may know called Beast Wars. Yeah.
Beast Wars!
So when did you first become involved with a project then? Or when, were you aware of the Transformers franchise going into it?
I was aware because I grew up with my brother and my 4 cousins, and they're all boys and they love Transformers and all that. But I had no idea what the show would become, to be quite honest. I remember auditioning for it. You went to audition because I penciled sketches of loosely what the character might look like because they were still trying to figure it out. And I see all my, my mates and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, you're auditioning. What character are you auditioning for? And I'm like, Black Arachnia. And the reason I rolled my eyes is because for females, there was only one character to audition for in that particular show. With the men, there were so many. So, but it was cool. It was a lot of fun. Got to work with Sue Blue, who directed us, and I have to give a big shout out to Sue, because if it wasn't for her and her brilliance and her energy and her just keeping us on track and really holding our hands along the way, she really showed us the way, and she's the one that made that show for the voice actors so spectacular, because she's very particular, very on, listens to everything. Doesn't mind if you get to do it over and over again. Like she works with you, and that's what's brilliant about having worked with her. And she walked me through it basically, and then the rest of the actors too, until we found kind of, all right, we feel a little more confident with where we're going with this, and went with it. Yeah.
And you had it was such an ensemble cast that was assembled for the show. So because obviously Black Arachnia didn't come in right away, she was a few episodes in and things like that. So did you get the opportunity to sort of get a feel for the other actors and things like that, or were you just coming in cold after they'd already established themselves?
Well, I had done some other voice work before that, so I wasn't nervous as far as working with the fellas, because I've worked with Gary and Ian and Scott and Richard and Alec and David. Oh my God, I can't forget David.
Yes.
It was those guys made it fun, right? So no, I wasn't nervous per se, but I was excited, and of course you're always like, how was it? Was it okay? Should I do it again? We're eager to make it work. We're eager for it to sound good, to hit our marks basically, without moving in the studio, but just getting there with our voice, right? So no, it wasn't. It was actually fun, and they embraced me, and we used to have a lot of fun working together.
Were you surprised by the depth of the character in terms of after the advertisement ban on cartoons and things like that, where you couldn't sell direct to children, was lifted in the 80s. A lot of the cartoons followed a simple sort of structure. Something bad happens to A and B. By the end of it, everybody's back where they need to be and things like that. Whereas Beast Wars, at least from a Transformers perspective, was a complete breath of fresh air, because a character that could just end up dead in one episode, that would be it, So were you surprised at just how much this toy show for a brand new toy line was actually introducing some really, really deep and meaningful relationships?
I have to say yes and no, because in the Beast Wars, where we had that transformation that was happening with the toys and with people moving forward, it was happening in television as well. Because all primetime shows, you couldn't do anything or say anything that was not appropriate, right? Because families would watch at that time, and especially when you're doing a show like Beast Wars, it had to be appropriate for viewing. I think that people were starting to be a little more open-minded about you know, that things needed to change and move forward with the times, and slowly but surely it happened. But I do remember with Beast Wars, they had to change it to Beasties because they weren't allowed to say, they weren't allowed to have the word wars at the end of it, and especially if it was geared towards children. They didn't want that, so.
Do we have a runner knocking around with a microphone? Yes, we do. If we're going to start taking some questions, so if you do have a question, if you want to put your hand up, we've already got some hands coming up. Stuck at the back. But we've got some people down here at the front.
Hi. So the questions I always like to ask when I'm talking to voice actors, especially when in a show like Beast Wars, where there were a lot of very good voice actors like Scott McNeil and Gary Chalk and Liv Kay. You mentioned how much fun you had, and what I like is anecdotes, because usually when you have such talented actors with such humor around, you usually got some good little stories, and I was wondering if you had some to share with us.
Sure. Well, you know, I mean, first of all, we're, you know, as actors, we are very serious. Not. We go into the room prepared. Not. We would get our scripts, and it was quite funny because we'd like leaf through them and like, oh, here I am. Oh, here I am. You know, and circle our names, right? And then we'd be in there, and we would do 2 shows a day, so we'd be in there for about 8 hours or so. And sometimes, you know, working out a scene, like originally when we started, we would record just line by line. So I would do my line, and you know, I would do it again, and maybe again if need be, and then the next character. And then we started getting comfortable where we would actually do a scene, try to play out a scene without stopping it, because to get the flow going, right? And sometimes when one of the actors was, like, say, having difficulty or needed to get some water, and it was really quiet in the studio, we'd like grab paper and like fling it at each other, or pens would go flying, pencils. It was like, oh my god, so much fun. And we would start getting the giggles, and you can't make any noise, right? So you're just literally, you're stuck to your chair, and there's like a big glass that where, you know, the engineers and the director sits, and we're like, you know, like trying to like hold it in because people would do something funny, or somebody would fart or whatever. You know what I mean? It was just, yeah, just having fun. And I think when you get that many creative people in a room, and you're locked in there for a few hours, I mean, something crazy is bound to happen, so.
Especially when one of those people is Scott McNeil.
Oh my goodness, I love Scott McNeil. Yeah, Scott's actually just such a cool dude. I had a lot of fun working with him. I've done a lot of cartoon voices with him, and I've also worked with him on live. We did a movie years ago where he leaves his wife for me. So we got actually a chance to work together, which was really cool. And yeah, he's just a lot of fun, and just a really nice man.
I've got, yeah, a question down here.
How's it going?
Hey, pretty good. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Okay, well, the main question I had was, where did the inspiration behind Anne Ragman's voice come from? You know, how did you come up with her voice? Sort of thing?
So, when we went into audition, Sue was in the room and, you know, said, okay, well, she's a spider. So you know, you look at the character and you kind of think, okay, what would a spider sound like to me, right? So I was like, trying like different things, right? And so I kind of went in and thought, what if Black Arachnia sounds like this? And she's like, sure. Or I did it a little bit first. I think it was a little bit more grovelly. I was like, oh, like this, always like, you know, almost like tarantula sounding. He has a bit of that really throaty thing. But it's hard on your throat, right? And she's like, well, why don't you just soften it a little bit? Make her just, you know, and have moments of that come through. So that's how basically it came about. I just went in with a couple of different versions, and she's like, yeah, I like that. Let's work with that. And it snowballed from there.
morality of the series in terms of certain characters. Like Generation 1, it was very black and white in my opinion. There was very little grey areas in terms of morality. But with Beast Wars, we saw characters like Dinobot and Black Arachnia, kind of going through those morally grey areas. I was just wondering how you felt about that and how you felt about one of your own characters doing that.
Well, for me, it's all about a character's journey, and I think that's cool. Anytime you get material written that moves the character along in a different way than what you expect is always a great challenge, and it just shows the many layers of the character, right? And it's a lot of fun to play. It would be boring to just be an evil person and just do that all the time. You want to be able to, bring something else to it, and I thought, not only from a Predacon she became a Maximal, but, sort of fell for Silverbolt, which was really cool. And it still maintained who she was, like she would never give up who she was, but the fact that, he did spark something inside of her, and, she fell for him, I think was really cool, and, I applaud the writers, because anytime they come up with interesting storylines, and it's funny because for my character, that's one of the storylines that everyone talks about, is Silverbolt and Black Arachnia, and how it affected them and touched their lives, and I think that's really cool.
Hi, so like you were saying about like the storylines and what the writing staff come up with, but when you're working with a cast like Gary and Scott and David, did you ever get a chance to improvise dialogue?
A little bit, yes. But you mainly stick to the words of the script, right? Because they're written for a reason. It's all about timing. It's all about what not only the voice director has in store, but also the animators. So if you come up with something interesting that works for the character, we would throw that line in, for instance, and then we would also record what's originally scripted, just in case the producers didn't like it or liked it, and if they did, they would draw around it to make it work for the characters. So yeah, we did improvise a little bit, not a lot, because the scripts were well written, but we did have opportunities to throw in our version, or if we wanted to do something, say, different, to add to it, and then she would record it that way and also record it as written, so that they had a choice of what they wanted to use.
Sorry, one very last quick thing. Spider-Man did study before Spinator?
Wow, that's pretty good!
Please say yes.
Do you remember when Waspinator hit on you?
Every character Scott McNeil played hit on me. Just kidding.
Yeah. Stretch.
Just to follow on from that question there, where you said that you pretty much stuck to the script and you didn't have much leeway for improvisation. Were there any lines, especially between Silverbolt and Black Arachnia, that you felt you cringed when you were reading, because there was quite a few corny lines there between both characters? Was there anything that you felt, I don't really want to read this because it is that cringy?
I don't think you had to worry about you with the cringy lines whenever you were talking to Silverbolt, did you?
Not really. Look, it depends on the relationship that you have with the actor that you're working with. And Scott and I always got along really well. He's just a great human being and a lot of fun to work with. And he's so passionate about what he does. So that, no, it doesn't feel cringy. It's a chance to explore something different with our characters. And I mean, yeah, we had giggly moments, absolutely, afterwards. You're like, oh, but no, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Just as an extension to the Black Arachnia Silverbolt relationship, after you did Beast Wars, you moved into Beast Machines. And really, for the entire series, Black Arachnia's sole mission is to rescue Silverbolt. And that became sort of her crux. It was no longer the morally, is she going to be a good guy or is she going to be a bad guy? It was like, let me save this person that I love. I'm just wondering how you enjoyed going from the Beast Wars side of things to that Beast Machines show.
You know, like I said, the character grew. It's not my choice, it's the writers, and it's their vision. We're just there to add color to it and bring voice quality to the character. I enjoyed them. We had fun doing all the series that we did, and you know what? It's cool because it gives you somewhere to go. You're not just, as I said, like it's more fun playing a character that has many layers to them, and you can explore new avenues. Because if you did the same thing all the time, it'd be kind of boring, right? So the fact that, yeah, that was her mission. But I guess, you know, Black Arachnia was very much like that. Like, she set her mind on something, and she wasn't done until, you know, she got her way. So it's kind of the same thing. So I totally see why she, you know, went through that journey and wanted to, you know, save him at all costs.
Do you have any favourite roles that you played whilst you were voice acting in Japanese animation? Because I remember that you voiced several characters in anime.
My favorite, I think I have to say, was Ranma. I really enjoyed playing that character. It was just fun, a fun show, and a good group of people that I worked with. My God, there's so many. But Ranma really stands out just because, yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I spent a lot of time in the studio voicing that character, so I really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Have you seen Cree Summers' performance as Black Arachnia in Transformers Animated?
I've heard her performance. I have not seen it, but I've heard her. She sounds great. And she's, you know, the new generation, right? So, yeah, kudos to her.
I think we've got some questions down here in front.
Throughout all your work, what are some of the main episodes that you've worked on that stick out in your mind?
Can you repeat that again, just a little louder?
Were there any episodes that stick out to you that you worked on?
Any specific episodes that you'll
From
remember
Beast Wars?
fondly? From Beast Wars or just in general?
Well, from all of your work.
From all of your work. Just any particular episodes or shows you might be particularly proud of?
For television, I portrayed the character of Angela Cosmo in a series called Da Vinci's Inquest, which was a crime drama. I played a homicide detective, and the writer and executive producer, it was kind of shot in a way, it was almost British looking. I don't know how to explain that. It was just very real, very raw, and the scripts were brilliant. The writing was amazing, and we did that for 7 seasons, and it was well received and critically acclaimed, and it was one of the best jobs I've had working with a great group of people, and mostly because the scripts were amazing, and the storylines were incredible. So yeah, I really enjoyed that.
I think we've got one. Yeah.
If you were to voice another Transformers character, who would you want to voice?
I don't know, but I'd audition for all of them, and hopefully I got hired for one of them.
Yeah.
Hello again. Right. Now, you voiced one of the original incarnations of Rainbow Dash and My Little Pony. So, I was just wondering what your take is on the current show that's on TV now.
Can you repeat the last part?
I was just wondering what your take is on the latest incarnation of Rainbow Dash in the new show.
Well, I did two different series of My Little Pony, and I loved playing Rainbow Dash. It was so much fun. I haven't heard the new version. I know the new version, is that the one that has singing in it? Yes. So I was a little bit frustrated and upset because I wanted to audition, but I can't sing, and they needed characters that could voice but could also have the singing capabilities. So it's a little frustrating, but that's the way it goes. That's show business, right? Is it? Awesome, I will.
Got somebody over here.
Hi, my question is, do you see a change in the industry now with the introduction of the streaming companies bringing more business, I suppose, to being an actor?
I'm Scottish, I have trouble as well.
I'm sorry, I do apologise, boy, I'll try again, shall I? No,
Let's try again.
do you see a change in the industry now with the introduction of the streaming services bringing their own television shows and own movies to light?
With the introduction of the streaming shows like Netflix and things like that, do you find that television in general is changing from your
Yes,
perspective?
yes, and it's great because as an actor, a lot of the roles that we do get are for television. When I first started out, if you worked in television, you were just a TV actor. You really wanted to do film. Now all that's changed. The 360s happened because of these networks, right? And the fact that they're not like ABC or NBC. It's like Netflix. You could do your own thing, like HBO. They've got some great programming. Just the way they put up their shows, you could binge watch. You don't have to wait a week or watch it through commercials. It's like you could every episode that you watch is like watching a mini movie per se, right? And not only that, but you reach a lot of people that way because most people don't go to the cinema anymore. They have their big screen TVs and all their channels, and they love staying at home and in the comforts of their own home and watching their shows. So for me, I think it's great, and there's a lot more opportunity, and feature films are great too. I just worked on one with Liam Neeson called Hard Powder, and he was a joy to work with, and it's going to be fun. Hopefully I make the movie because you never know, right? But TV is a great medium, and a lot of big-name actors in Hollywood are turning to that because they get a lot more exposure. It's a lot of fun, and they get a really good fan base that way because they reach a lot more people.
And there's so much TV work in Vancouver, isn't there?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I know a lot of the Warner Brothers stuff is done. You've been in Supernatural, Arrow, things like that. So, I mean, what's the scale of it? Is it?
It's huge. It's huge. I mean, I live downtown Vancouver, and it used to be a quiet place to live many, many years ago. Now it's just bustling, not only with film activity, but with construction and new buildings. Just last week they had a whole big street called Hastings in downtown Vancouver cordoned off for 5 blocks for the filming of Deadpool 2, the Ryan Reynolds new movie. And what was really funny is that there was a lot of police officers that assisted because there was a lot of gunfire and they had these big, huge tanks. It was really awesome to see, right? And there was like a lot of fans like waiting around to get a glimpse of him and stuff. And he tweeted a picture with him and all the police officers that assisted that day and said, "Thank you, Vancouver, for allowing us to, close off your streets and film here, film the new Spider-Man movie," which was really funny because he wanted to take young people to think, "Oh yeah, they're filming Deadpool."
For general Joe Bloggs who lives in Vancouver, it must be a nightmare trying to get around. If you're shutting
Yeah, sometimes it is. I mean, look, it's not a very big city, but there's a lot of productions. Like when I just did my 5th episode of Arrow, and we filmed on the lot, and just even getting on the lot, like we can't even park our cars. They have to park us like quite a few blocks away and shuttle us into the studio because there's just so many productions going on. There's like 4 productions going on in one studio, So there's a lot of work, but it's great for Vancouver, and it's great for not only the actors because we get opportunities, but for crews. Like we have some of the best crews in the world because they have so much experience and have worked on so many episodics and feature films, and Yeah, and it's fun, you know, I still get starstruck, you know, it's like you see someone that you're like, oh my god, they're so-and-so, it's really cool. Yeah.
I have one follow-up question. I'll try and speak a little bit slower. You were in the original 1990 version of It by Stephen King, which is coming out again, remade this year. What do you think of remakes, and are you interested in going to see it?
What do you think of remakes, and are you interested in going to see It?
Yes. Okay, so let me tell you my little It story. Growing up with a name like Venus wasn't easy, because I got teased a lot. So that kind of, you know, made me build my character and thick skin. So when I got cast on It, I, first of all, was really happy to be able to be a part of that. But I went for the table read and I sat down, and an actor by the name of Tim Reed comes and sits next to me. And he's like, hi, I'm Tim. And I'm like, hi, I'm Venus. And he's like, what? Tim Reed, I don't know if you know out here in the UK, used to be a show called WKRP in Cincinnati, and he played the character of Venus Flytrap. So for me growing up and watching him on that sitcom, it was like, oh my god, I'm getting to meet Venus Flytrap. This is so cool, and my name is Venus. It was like, oh. And the second part to that story, which was really fun working on it, was my scene was with John Ritter, and I grew up watching him on Three's Company. And that's exactly what blurted out of my mouth when I met him. He's like, oh, hello, nice to meet you. And I'm like, hi. I'm like, oh my god, I'm such a huge fan. I grew up watching you. He's like, thanks a lot. Because I made him feel old, right? And then lo and behold, we have a scene where we're this drunk couple, like spilling out of the limousine, and then, you know, we have this kiss, right? And an appropriate kiss, an actor's kiss, is just you kiss, but you don't use your tongue, right? All of a sudden, we get to the kissing part, and I'm like, oh my god, that cripple had a tongue down my throat. It was like so funny, and I was like, I couldn't believe it. But anyway, he was a lot of fun to work with, and a really good actor. And I do approve of remakes because just like when they remake songs, sometimes I'm like a little bit, you know, taken aback, and then I'm like, oh, I like it. I like this version. I like people being able to come in and show their own version of something that was great to begin with. So yeah, I would go and see it.
Great. We've got time for one or two more questions. So there's one hand there, there's one hand there. So we'll come to this person here, and then we'll come to you. Yep.
So okay. Just one of the other shows I recognise your voice from growing up with was X-Men Evolution. I'm just wondering, what was it like to work on a show for Marvel, especially, you know, with a lot of cast members from Beast Wars appearing in that quite regularly as well?
You're talking about when I played Jean Grey on X-Men Evolution?
Yeah, just what was it like to sort of work for a Marvel animation with Beast Wars cast members as well?
What was it like working with Marvel on a Marvel property along with the Beast Wars actors?
Oh, it was great. It's so much fun. And back then, I mean, I got a chance to work with a lot of the same actors. Like we would be on a few different shows at the same time. So yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. But I have to admit, when I booked that role, I called my brother, and my cousin happened to be there, and I said, oh yeah, I just got a new gig, I said, on X-Men. He's like, what? You got a part on X-Men? I'm like, it's called X-Men Evolution, and it's a cartoon, like, you know. So he was really excited about that, because that's one of his favorite series. Yeah.
Okay, over here.
It's me again. If you were given the chance, we all know that movies are terrible and all that, but if Michael Bay came up to you and said, hey, do you want to star in the next Transformers movie as a human or a Transformer, would you take up the offer?
I suppose.
Oh wait, let me think about it. Yeah. Of course. Michael Bay, hello, I'm here. Hire me.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And again, it's an honor to meet you.
Yeah. Oh, I just want to say just one more thing before we go. I just want to thank you all for coming out here and showing your support. And most of you weren't even born or were toddlers or children when we were voicing the characters when I was voicing the character Black Arachnia for Beast Wars. So it really warms my heart, and I'm very proud to have been part of, something that's so special. And for years, later, 20 years later, here we are, and you guys are awesome, and you show your love and your support, and I really appreciate that. As an actor, because it's not live, we record in the studio, we don't get the instant, gratification of knowing did they like it, or what did they think. So having you guys come here today really means a lot to me, and I thank you for it, and yeah, just have a great rest of the weekend. Thank you.